Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those who are new, welcome. My name is Monica. In today's video, I'm going to wrap up my reading from the historical fiction readathon. But I wanted to film a wrap up so I can talk about the books I read and what did I think of them and if they're worth your time. So the first book that I read was Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. This is a historical fiction thriller murder mystery. And this one's about Beth, and there is a love triangle in here between her, Frank, and Gabriel. Someone was killed and someone is now on trial for the murder. And at the beginning, we don't know who was the murderer and who was killed. So I'm gonna say this, the characters are unlikable except Frank. Frank, who is our farmer, he is the best character in this book. So Beth had a romance with Gabriel and then she married Frank. I liked Frank more and more and more until we find out exactly what happened. And I was like, Frank, oh my gosh. So he is by far the best character. Beth, who is our heroine, she had to make some decisions. She's not very likable because of some of the decisions she made. I didn't particularly like her. I thought that she did her husband dirty, but there was also things that were secrets. Like there was a lot of secrets and there was a lot of twists and turns in this. And I really enjoyed it. This book takes place in the English countryside between the 1950s and the 1970s. And I highly recommend that you check this one out. I gave it 4 stars. You should go check it out. The next book I read for the historical fiction readathon was His Stolen Bride by Shelley Thacker. This is a historical romance. This one is about Lady Lauren and Durka, I think his name is. I could never really pronounce his name correctly. She's a stolen bride. She has dowry of lands and stuff, and she is stolen by our hero on her wedding day to a guy who's actually a villain. And then they go to Scotland. And in that time, they fall in love. I was a little bored at the beginning of this, I'm not gonna lie, but it was solid. Like, it was a solid 4 stars, right? And then we had other woman drama that I was like, absolutely not. No. I did not like the other woman drama. I felt like it was unnecessary. I felt like I don't like other woman drama unless there is a real good reason for it, and it wasn't in this. And I just was like, psh, forget this. I was mad about the other woman drama. So, yep, no, I gave it 3 stars. I've read 2 other Shelley Thacker books in this series, and I loved them. This is the first book that I've ever read from Shelley Thacker that I did not like. So I'm still going to continue on in this series and finish this series. I really like this series. This one, I just didn't like. Like, I did not like the hero. He was mean. The heroine was fine. She was fine. She was very meek and stuff, but she also in parts where she did have a little guts going in, and she's very smart. But it was the other woman drama that just did it for me. I was like, no. So that one, I don't know if I would recommend. I mean, you can try it, but that's maybe if you like that stuff. So try it and figure it out. So the next book I read was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is my first Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and I hated every single character in this book. They were all messy. They were all dramatic. They were all selfish. Daisy was she was very spoiled. She always got what she wanted. Billy was just, he was so self-centered. He couldn't see it. He couldn't get past his own thing. Warren was fine. But I really loved Camilla. I loved how she understood who her husband, who's Billy, is, and how she protected her family. I really liked that. I really liked Camilla. She's the only character I truly liked in this book. However, I really liked the story. The story was fantastic. It was like going back into what happened to the band, or where the band now, or making of the band, or whatever it's called, those documentaries. And so I really liked it. I thought it was really well done. The writing is fantastic. It took me a minute to get used to the writing style, specifically how the story was told. And I gave it 4 stars. I would recommend this one if you haven't gotten to it yet, but I would recommend that one. So the next book I read was the group book pick, and it's A Promise to Arlette by Serena Burdick, and I gave this 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this one. So it was supposed to take place in the 1950s in the United States. I thought that's where I was going into. We actually started out in the 1950s, But we go to the 1930s into England, where we see Ida, and that's where she's from. Stuff happens with her family. She goes and leaves to go to London. But before she goes to London, she met Arlette, who is this French woman. And Arlette is a Jew. And you know that's going to come into play later. Ida goes to London to find Arlette. And Ida and Arlette ended up going to work for Peggy Getty. And Peggy Getty is a real person. So you think about the Getty Museum in New York. But Arlette and Ida have this very deep connection and a real friendship that ended up becoming more. They ended up becoming lovers for a while. And they ended up going to Paris. And at this Paris, you had the salons where you had the artists and the musicians. And that was the scene. And the way the author wrote it was so historically accurate. I was very impressed by her writing. I really loved the storyline. And then they go down to Marseille, but Ida ends up staying at the chateau during World War II. And she meets a German soldier, and then she meets an American soldier. And this story is about her surviving her friendship with Arlette and her romance with Sydney. And after the war, she goes to the United States with a child and with Sydney. But a nude photograph of Arlette and Ida in Paris in the 1940s resurfaces in the 1950s in Lexington, Massachusetts. And that is where our story really begins, because that's at the start of the story. And then then our timeline jumps back to how they met and what happened during the war. And we all know that something happened to Arlette. She was a radical. She was Jewish. She was she was everything that the Nazis did not like. Okay, and I really liked the story. I thought the story was well done. I thought the characters were well written. I liked Ida. I liked Sydney a lot. I did not like Arlette. Arlette was very manipulative and very just. There was a big manipulation around her, and she was very secretive and just very flighty. She was kind of like a fever dream in a way. So a manic pixie dream girl type of a character. That's how I can best describe Arlette. She's a manic pixie dream girl. Anyway, I did not like Arlette, but I loved how it ended. I loved the storyline. I thought it was well written, well paced. The characters they felt real. So yes, I gave that 4.5 stars, and I would absolutely recommend, if you haven't checked this one out, you should. So one of the prompts is that it takes place in the country where I'm from, which is the United States. So I actually was like, okay, I thought that a Promise to Arlette was going to be in the United States. It wasn't, for the most part. So I didn't feel comfortable saying that was it. So, but I totally forgot that Daisy Jones and the Six was in the United States. Don't ask me why I forgot it. So I decided to pick up James by Percival Everett to cover, because that's old antebellum South, because this is a retelling of Jim from Huckleberry Finn. It's his story, and it has a lot of accolades. It won the Pulitzer. It won, I think, the Booker Prize. It won Book of the Year on major lists. Everybody's just like saying this is the greatest book ever written, and I did not like it at all. Like, okay, so the writing is solid. Like, this has very good, solid writing. He's good at storytelling. Our author is good at storytelling. I was gonna give it 3.5 stars, because the first part felt very disjointed from the second part. The first part was more on the lines of the Book of Huckleberry Finn, but then the second book was like Django Unchained. Okay, that's how the best I can describe it. And then a scene at the very end happened. It was a grape scene. I want to say the real word, but I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, but it was a grape scene. And if you don't want to hear this, go forward. But so I guess I'll put the word spoiler somewhere around here. Okay, so James was on the run, and he was coming back to get his wife and his daughter, to get them out of slavery. And so he was trying to find them because they had been sold. And he was at the Cotton's residence, right? And Katie Cotton was there. And then the plantation overseer, he comes in and he grapes Katie in front of James, but he doesn't know James is there because James is hiding. In James's mind, he says, I could easily go up and snap his neck and stop him. He doesn't. That really made me upset because, I mean, later in the, like, this is towards the very end of the book, and then like literally right after that, he finds him drunk and he kills him then. But I was like, why didn't you stop him? You said in your mind, you could have easily gone up and snapped his neck and killed him, and he would have not known what happened. And you could have saved Katie from carrying her rapist child. Like, you could have saved her. And he realized that in that moment with that one thought. There was so many ramifications, and it felt gratuitous. There's a lot of violence in this, but there was violence against women, which in this time it was appropriate for it to be in this book. But that one scene felt gratuitous and felt unnecessary. And that's where my line is. I don't like that. If that was a 5-star book, it would have gone down to a 1-star for me, because that is not okay to have those type of scenes in there as a way. It did happen, and it happened in the antebellum South. We know this happened. Like, this is not new. This is not new knowledge, okay? The character who was very smart, very cunning, and he was willing to kill people to save other people. He was willing to do that. He did not do that for Katie in that moment, and he could have. And that's why it went from a solidly fine book that felt disjointed, and I was just like, okay, I'm not seeing the hype, but that's okay, to me absolutely raging about this book because of that one scene. And then right after that, the ending was so rushed and stuff. I literally didn't have enough time to process what that scene did to, oh yeah, he saved his family and they live happily ever after. Like, that to me was not okay. And it felt like it did not need to be in there. It should not have been in there. He could have extended the ending and had a bigger, more impactful scene at the end than that scene, which was unnecessary. So that I'm not rating, because I do not rate books under 3 stars, because that's just my personal thing. I won't do it. So anyway, I will not recommend that book ever because of that one scene. If you want to try it, go for it. You may like it. I know a lot of people do like it, and that's fine. You can like it, but I can't with that because of that one scene. It just, no. Okay, and then moving on to my last book, and it's The Veil of Vengeance by Marilyn Marks. This is book 2 in the Phase of the Roaring Twenties book series. It's a fantasy romance historical fiction because it takes place in the 1920s, and we pick up where the Prince of Prohibition ends. This one is a long, but it's engrossing. I absolutely loved this one because we got to see Jack and Addie's past through Jack's memories that she got to witness through this diamond that had all his memories in there. And we're finding out all this new information, how they initially met, why she keeps getting reincarnated, and all the ins and outs of details. And it was a 4.5 stars. Like, this is a really solid read. It's really fun. I really love the characters. The characters felt like they continued on who they were from the first book. And it felt kind of long to me a little bit, but then we got to the ending, and the ending blew me away. The twist at the ending of Violet and Violet's origins, and why Jack always brings Addie back 13 times. Like, this was her 13th life because she was reincarnated 13 times. And I'm just like, that was such a good ending. I had to give 5 stars. I literally had to give that book 5 stars. It was fantastic. So those are the books I read. Let me know if you've read them down below. What did you think of them? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know all the things. And if you made it this far in this video and you want to let me know that you're here, please leave me a fairy emoji, because the last book I read was Phase in 1920. And until next time, my friends, happy reading. Bye.